Lindley Battle, welcome back to the Yoke and Abundance podcast for your second interview.
I am so happy to be doing this.
I'm so happy. You and I were just chatting and reminiscing about how the first time when you were on the podcast, I mean, the podcast was in its infancy. I think you were like the second interview I did for the podcast.
That's crazy.
Yeah, what a wild ride. And now, it's close to 3 years old and
I feel like we were
many,
such babies back then, even though it was only 3 years ago.
I know, baby business owners, right?
Exactly. Seriously.
Yeah. So, if folks want to hear about how you got into your work, which is you are a phenomenal photographer and you photograph weddings, you are responsible for photographing brands and doing branding and styling shoots. And I mean, I would say that you are a sought after photographer up and down the East Coast and beyond.
Wow. Thank you. That means a lot to hear it put that way, but I really appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, your work is pretty incredible, and I feel honored that I get to call you my photographer.
Oh, well, I mean, our businesses have grown alongside each other. I mean, first of all, we've been working together since the very beginning of when either of us thought we might want to have businesses. And then, I mean, I feel honored to be on this journey with you and all the cool different things that we've gotten to work on together over the years. It's been pretty amazing.
Likewise, it gives me chills just thinking about it. And
No kidding.
you and I just recently did a branding shoot, and which I'm always get so excited. I restrained myself with this last branding shoot harder than I have ever restrained myself because normally I get so excited when I see them and want to like put the whole album out on my personal page. And then I'm like, no, that's like blowing the wad a little too soon. Like,
You
so
have been really good about selectively sharing. I actually did notice that with this one. I was like, oh, okay, I see you.
yeah, I'm learning, I'm growing.
You're doing great. You're doing well. Now we're gonna have a monthly, so I mean, you get to just use all the photos.
Right. Yes. Um, so I feel good about that, but I love the way you shoot and I love your work. And when we were in that shoot, you and I were talking about growing businesses and like what helped you get to where you are. And you talked about, we were getting down and dirty and talking about growing businesses. And one of the things that you talked about that when you started, um, you were willing to do things that other baby photographers were not willing to do.
Oh, for sure.
Can you talk about that? Because I was so fascinated. I mean, you said things that I wouldn't have even thought to do. And I was like, oh my God, this woman's brilliant beyond what I even knew.
You're so sweet. Well, it's one of those things that always seemed very natural to me. And I think it goes into, what you and I were talking about as a bigger picture, which is that I think a lot of the times people who want to be in business will sit back and expect someone else to be responsible for their success or to be as invested in their success as they themselves are. And, for me, I have always really tried to pursue aggressive growth in business, not necessarily because I want aggressive growth as much as I always knew where I wanted to be and didn't want to spend too much time in the in between. So when
Mhm.
I started my wedding photography business, a lot of, starting out wedding photographers will attend a cheaper workshop or, try to work with other newer businesses on styled shoots and try to create the content that they need to create to launch their business in a certain direction, but it is a very slow process and every year they'll make little micro steps. And for me, I just couldn't, that's not how I wanted to do things. So I invested a ton of money in going to certain workshops that were probably outside of my budget range or skill level, but it made the most sense to me to learn on a certain level. And then also a big thing that I was telling you about is, a lot of the times, um, wedding photographers or photographers who are trying to build a certain portfolio will try to reach out to dress shops for, sample dresses to use in shoots. And after a few times of trying to reach out to dress shops to get dresses and not getting a response because I didn't have enough of a name, I just kind of shrugged my shoulders and started buying dresses, used wedding dresses on Poshmark, and stalking Still White for designer dresses, because to me, I knew that I wasn't going to get the type of clientele I wanted to get until I was able to show work on the level that they wanted to see. And so, I knew that I was capable of producing a certain caliber of work. But as far as getting the look and the style, I knew that that wasn't just going to come to me. I was going to have to go out and pursue that.
So I want to break this down for listeners for a second, because what I hear that you're saying is you're like, okay, I know I'm new to this business and I want to be shooting weddings. I want to be shooting these weddings at a certain caliber, a certain price point, a certain range. There's a style that I know I can do. And if I just wait around and hope to get booked by one of these folks, that's never going to happen. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create that myself. I'm going to find the wedding dresses. I'm either going to buy them secondhand, right? You got them secondhand, or okay. You found the wedding dresses you wanted to use. You purchased floral arrangements that were what you thought you would be shooting in that caliber, and you hired models, and you went out and did your own shoots in order to illustrate to folks what it was that you were capable of.
Well, and I think
um,
I'm echoing weird. Are you hearing it
weird.
Mm-mm.
Okay, it's on my end. Weird. I think it's important to note too, like, as we're talking about this, for me, I was very confident that I could produce the level of work that I knew these clients would be looking for. Which is something that I always try to say whenever I'm talking about this to anyone, because there are so many new photographers who have no idea how to use an off-camera flash at a wedding reception, and yet will market themselves in the $10,000 wedding range, and then they get to these weddings and they're like, oh crap, So I think it's very important to say, like, I had been shooting for 7 years professionally before I even tried to enter the luxury wedding market.
Yeah, you had the skill set.
Yes.
Like the skill set was there. You knew that you could do it. You'd already demonstrated that you could do it through all of the photography work that you'd been doing up to that point.
And then, yes, so from that point, it's marketing. The marketing was the point where I was like, I understand what I have to bring to the table and what I want to bring to the table and the level of work I want to be doing. So I'm going to invest in making sure that it comes across a certain way.
How did you even know to do that, Lindley? I mean, like, how did you know that was the path? Because I think that there are a lot of folks out there who are willing to make the investment and make the sacrifice to do what needs to be done, but they don't know the path. How did you figure that out?
Ooh, that's a hard one. I mean, honestly, it always just made sense. I think I was looking at the type of bride that I was wanting to attract. And I've turned on and done this in the branding business too, but looking at the type of clientele that I wanted to attract and figuring out what they would be looking for. And, understanding that brides who are having a wedding at a certain caliber are going to want a dress that's of a certain caliber and a floral arrangement that is fitting a certain trend and also, on a more elevated level. And I think for me, it's so funny to say this because I know a ton of entrepreneurs who are like, I don't care about the money. And, that is what it is. For me, the reason I wanted to work with this elevated clientele wasn't necessarily because I wanted to just be charging this crazy amount of money. It was because I wanted to attract a clientele who trusted me and who would let me do what I knew I could do well. And so I think that not just and back to your question, knowing what to do. It's not just targeting the most expensive thing in the room. It's understanding this type of dress is going to appeal to a bride who fits this type, and also is probably going to pick a wedding photographer that she doesn't have to micromanage because she doesn't want to micromanage her wedding photographer. So that to me was the hugest piece.
Wow. I mean, I just love that. I mean, last year you and I did a shoot as well. And in that shoot, it was, middle of COVID at this point, right? And we were talking about, you had just watched how many different weddings be canceled or postponed. And it looked like it was going to be a significant loss to your business, right? And I think what struck me is the amount that you're going to be losing in your business was more than I had yet to make in my business. So like I thought that was the coolest thing, like so cool. But you decided that you would invest in your business even though you were losing a ton of money. Can you talk to us a little bit about that and what last year looked like for you and how you've, okay, the most overused word, how you pivoted
Oh no, not the
in
2020 pivot.
2020.
No, I mean, it's a fitting word though. I think I've watched so many other small businesses go through the 2020 pivot too. So I think it is a very real thing. Yes, totally. Well, and that was, it's interesting. I was chatting with someone yesterday about the last year and what a formative year for my business it was, because I had the time. And, normally, I mean, we have the goals and the drive and the work ethic, and we just simply don't have the time or the space to be creative and grow. um, and I had already started pretty significantly down, shooting weddings and that trajectory before 2020, and was already building up a really great clientele there. But I remember, I mean, the first maybe 3 days after the pandemic hit, I sat at home and did nothing but drink wine. But after that, as we all did, after that first initial, like, what the heck moment, I really was like, all right, well, closing my business is not an option. Not running a business is not an option. So it's time to figure out how I can use however long this is to really just kind of redefine and grow. And so, for the first time since starting my business in whatever year I started my business, 2015, 2014, I really got to kind of sit back and just refine everything. So started off by, so my business started off as a branding business, and then I shifted into weddings. And then I kind of was left with this animal of both, loving both equally, but not really understanding how to best advertise or best serve either market, because I was trying to just juggle all the things. So started off by stepping back and splitting those two businesses into two completely separate businesses, building, updated, elevated websites for both, and just setting back end processes into place, templates and client journey systems and all kinds of different things that were able to make me be present without having to spend as much time on stuff that just wasn't helping anyone. I'm still loving, every minute of true one-on-one interaction that I get with each of my clients, but there's certain things that everybody needed that I was just able to automate out. And so having what ended up being almost 6 months to just completely step back and refine the back end was, I mean, it made the world of difference to me.
So you step back, and what are some of the action steps that you took to work, like, would we call this working in or working on the business?
A little bit of both. I mean, it's just interesting. I don't know if anyone out there, I'm sure everybody out there does this, but I had bought so many courses, online courses that I'd never taken, So I went through
Mm.
all of those, I mean, I have them all through everything from copywriting to marketing to Pinterest courses. I've purchased all those throughout the years and never done a single one. So but finally went through and just saturated my brain with education. I had bought a client management system called Honeybook 2 years ago and never taken a minute to set it up. So, set up workflows and that. I mean, and then I think for me, a big part of 2020 was refining my why because, not making a dollar for 6 months from my business. I mean, you really have to step back and think about, what you're doing, why you're doing it, what you love without making money, and what you still want to be doing without making money. And the first shoot that I got to do, the first wedding that I got to do after like the real worst part of the pandemic was over. I mean, it was a breath of fresh air. I was like, I don't ever want to leave this. Like, I'll get there 4 hours early. I'll stay 4 hours late. Like, let's turn this into a 7-day wedding. I mean, and realizing how much I missed storytelling, like it just made going into this crazy 2021 year so much different because my purpose has been so refined and so um what's emphasized.
Ah, and it's so funny because often I'll do coaching with entrepreneurs. Like this is something that when the stars align and I get to do, I'm so excited to do. And it seems like I always get that eye roll when I'm like, we have to start with the why. Like Simon Sinek all the way, right? We have to like you have to tell me what you're doing and why you're doing it. And we have to dig into those core values just like if we're doing a life coaching, like whether it's coaching around your business or coaching around your life, you have to dig in to the why because if you aren't connected to that why, none of your customers are going to be connected to that either.
Well, and more than just that too. I mean, totally, completely agree. It's so much. I mean, being connected to your why, I think, eliminates competition because you know what you're doing and why you're doing it. So it's not this like, oh, well, I'm doing the same things. But then even more than that, being an entrepreneur is no joke. I mean, this is like everybody. People will message me on Instagram or Facebook all the time and be like, I want to start a business, and I'm like, don't do it. And I love what I do. I would never in a million years change what I do, but it's tough. I mean, and it takes a lot of hard years to get to the good side, and then the good side's hard too. So if you're not connected to like truly loving what you're doing and knowing why you're doing it.
Amen. Amen, sister. I mean, okay. So, yes, yes. I mean, entrepreneurship gets so glorified and it makes me ill on the inside anytime I see anything that's like, oh, your business is roses. I mean, I just want to like throw up in my mouth because even when you love it, you question every day. Like you have to be able to take yourself back to that why because it is so hard.
Yes. Well, and to do it well, to do it with heart, I mean, you spend all day, every day taking in people's energy. And I mean, you're just so like, I've actually had to start taking baths at the end of the day to like, just like drip off all the stuff that you have to carry for the people that you work for. Because to do it well, I mean, you're carrying everybody's everything around on your back all day long.
Yeah. Lindley, I mean, I think our audience will be interested to hear this. Like just this weekend, my boyfriend and I were having a really sweet moment, drinking coffee together on my tiny little screened in back porch. And we were asking each other that question about like, all right, if money was no object, what would you be doing? And I'm like, this, I would be doing this. But what I would be doing is like, I would go back to school for my master's so that I could be the very best coach in the whole wide world. And then I would build all the funnels and make sure that like all of the people that were supposed to be working with me were finding their way to me. And I'm like, talking 100 miles an hour the way I'm talking right now. So jazzed up, so excited. And he is very entrepreneurial minded. He's studied a lot of the same things that I've studied. And he just looks at me and he smiles and he's like, how many of your friends could follow what you just said? And I was like, just you, honey, just you.
It's so true. I mean, it's just such a little, yeah, that's hilarious. That's amazing.
But I feel like that's something that you can relate to. It's like if money were no object, we would probably still be doing what we're doing right now.
Oh, for sure. Just like maybe a little bit smarter and also delegating a little bit more.
Yeah, and I'd get to take more vacations, or like I'd get to take a vacation. How about that?
I'm even down for the working vacations. Like I'll attach work to it happily.
Yeah. Yeah, especially if you get a couple days on the back end where you don't have to
The
think
dream.
about
Yes.
it. You are the queen of something that I don't know if you know you're the queen of. You are, in my opinion, the queen of authenticity when it comes to knowing what you're going to do and what you're not going to do.
Wow, thank you. That means a lot to hear because that's been a journey for sure.
Well, can you share with us? And what I mean by that is we were just talking about how you are not going to do a newborn shoot if somebody wants them to like pose the baby and
Yes.
make the baby look like a pea or hanging from a moon, or like
I mean,
you're going to go do a lifestyle shoot.
well, and that's to me, I mean, that's been my whole life. I mean, I've just always operated, I've been lucky enough that since a young age, I've just kind of had that mentality of like, I am going to do what I'm going to do. And that's my grandmother loves to tell a story. I was staying at her house when I was like 5, and she was like, it's your bedtime. Your parents are coming home soon and you need to go get in bed. And I was like, no, I'm the boss. I'm not getting in bed. Which, I mean, I feel like I now say that in a lot of different aspects,
But you are the boss.
well, I don't know, some days. But I think, to me, it has always just made sense to do what feels right. And I've had a lot of, internal personal struggles, but one of them has never been questioning, like, what should I do this? Or I've always kind of known, like, I'm staying true to what I feel is right. And so for me in my photography, whether it's weddings, whether it's branding, I mean, whatever it is, I'm going to tell your story in an honest way, and I refuse to do anything else. And I mean, that's why, I've become selective with my clients because I want someone who is as excited about their vision for these photos as I am. And then that gets to shine through. I don't want to try to manufacture excitement for you, or I don't want to manufacture emotions for you. And so going back to I don't do a ton of newborn shoots, but when I do, it's because they're it's with people that I really connect with, and they're truly just so excited to have their baby and have the moments. And I actually just came from a newborn shoot, and the couple looked gorgeous, and it was their sweet first baby and their little girl, and there was these precious moments. And then at the end, I looked at the mom and I was like, why don't you go put on leggings and a big shirt and come sit on the bed and snuggle with your baby like I know you do when I'm not here, and let's get some of those photos, because that's the moment you're going to remember. I mean, it's the staged smiling photos are nice to have, and you send those out on cards and stuff. But just like at a wedding, I mean, the posed couples photos are gorgeous, and I love that. And those are great. And the Vogue moments are amazing. But, the bride smiling with her dad before she walks through the door to the church, like that's the special sauce right there. And same thing with branding. And I think that's why I've been so adamant about this brand photography business is you can take the same approach. Your brand photo doesn't have to be you sitting with your keyboard cheesing at the camera. It's not this like canned staged like office portrait. I mean, you get to get excited about what you do, and then that gets to be the photo. You do it every time we shoot. I mean, the joy you take in what you do just shines through in your brand photos. And so, I mean, I think that's kind of, I'm rambling, of course, but I think
No.
that I mean, that's how it's always made sense to me, and to do it differently in a way that makes sense to me, I mean, is not worth the sleepless nights and all the other stuff that we've been talking about. It's just not worth it unless I get to tell the stories that I want to tell.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I think I get great brand photos when I work with you. And I think it's because I'm willing to put in as much work as you're willing to put in. It's not just that I think that you're going to come over and I'm magically going to have great photos. It's that I've thought like, okay, what do my clients want to see? What are they curious about seeing? What story do they want to hear? What's going to illustrate the stories that I want to tell them, that I'm excited to tell them, that I think is going to be helpful? And then how can I, it's that stupid, be the youest you that you can be. Like,
That's not
I
stupid at all. I mean, that's what sets you apart.
I don't know, I just hate saying it like that, but I mean it. I'm like that, it's the saying it in that cheesy way, but I really, it's, okay, yeah, I could go get a new outfit, but that's not real. It's the, what am I wearing every day that actually looks like me? What am I comfortable in? What, what's going to help the people looking at this get to know me and my brand better?
100%. And that's something that I started taking a lot of, and we're getting ahead of myself, but a couple months away from kind of relaunching, redefining the entire brand business. But part of what I want to start offering people is for people who don't even live around here, brand photo shoot planning. And you and I kind of touched on this last time we talked, but you see so many people going into their brand shoot without the tools to make it successful, and you see photographers facilitating brand shoots without giving their clients the tools to make it successful. I mean, it is just so much more than this, fluffy staged dream shoot. It is like finding the core, the beating heart of your business and putting that into photos. And that doesn't necessarily mean a cheesy photo of you smiling. I mean, it's whatever's true to you. Um,
Right.
so that's you do such a great job of that, though. I've always noticed that every time I've come to your brand shoots, you've been so prepared, you've had your list, you've had your outfits prepped, and that's huge because I'll show up and there's none of that sometimes, and there's 30 minutes of our session just spent trying to organize. Like it's work on everyone's part to try to get everything to run smoothly.
Right. Yeah. I think the only thing that's not entirely true when you and I do pictures is that I clean my house for you.
I don't know, it looks pretty clean right now.
It's only because you were here last week.
Well,
No,
good.
but
There you go. Becoming monthly is just incentive for you to clean your house. There, it's a double
yeah,
favor.
exactly. I mean, really, seriously, the only thing that's not true when people look at my brand pictures is that normally my dining room my dining room has become solely an office, and it is normally full. I want everything at arm's reach. It's not pretty, but like I want to be able to paint in between client sessions, and I want to be able to write letters like because I write almost a letter a day. So I want to have the letters and the stamps and the envelopes at my fingertips to be able to like get out the door as quickly as possible, which means a lot of clutter. And that's a weird, it's something that creates a lot of tension in my life. We're getting slightly off topic, but I think this is interesting for entrepreneurs. It creates so much tension in my life because as a person that I need a high aesthetic and able to be able to work, like I need things to look beautiful, but I also need the mess in some ways too. It's this really weird thing. I don't want to look at the mess, but I need the stuff handy. So I
Well,
don't know.
you bring up a super interesting point because I think that as much as we both are obsessed with authenticity, I think that there's some kind of like intentionally elevated authenticity that comes with portraying a brand, just like it does with a wedding. But anything you do, I mean, and I can speak to this from the client facing side of things too, because I'm actually planning my brand shoot in DC next week. And so, which has been chaos, but great. But you, as much as I will fight tooth and nail for authenticity in photos, there's also a lot to be said for keeping your ideal client in mind and presenting in a way that's going to speak to them. Now, I believe that your ideal client should be a slightly more elevated version of you, or you on your best day, is what I always say. Because as entrepreneurs, we're never cute or put together or like clean. But our ideal client out there somewhere is well showered and cute. So
Yeah, like I don't know if I've brushed my teeth today.
did I eat in the last 2 days? I don't know. Who knows? Who knows what's going on? It's just a series of staring at my screen. But the people that I shoot for are what I would be if I showered every day. So, but so I think there's a certain, no, I think if you're super, super far off from your ideal client, then you maybe need to take a step back and figure out, who you're trying to serve and why. And that's okay. I mean, I've shot for plenty of businesses who their ideal client is not them, but it resonates with them. So that's not necessarily that you have to be working for yourself. But I do think as solo business owners, we tend to attract people who are a lot like us. And so I think that when it comes to planning a brand shoot, you want to stay very authentic, but at the same time, you do need to keep in mind that your ideal audience doesn't want to see clutter. They may have their own clutter because they're also creative. So they want to look at your feed and feel calm and collected, and that you will bring that to your life. And that doesn't mean that your dining room table can stay messy, but you're going to help other people clean theirs off.
Right. Giving them and me something to aspire to.
Precisely. And this is why social media is wonderful and toxic. It is the best version of all of us.
The both and. When we were talking about what we wanted to share on today's podcast, we talked about like, what advice would you want to give yourself 3 years ago?
Oh my gosh. I forgot whatever I said whenever we talked about that.
I'm curious. I mean, what do you wish you had known 3 years ago?
I wish 3 years ago that I had known to slow down a little bit, known to push a little more intentionally. And then just validating what I was starting to do, which is don't listen to what you should be doing or what other people, in your lane are doing. Do what feels true to you, and you'll always end up on top. How about you?
Oh golly. Build your email list, build your email list, build your email list.
Oh, la 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 la. Can't hear you.
No, seriously. I mean, I've taken Marie Forleo's B School. I think as far as trainings and investments go, I mean, I'm not getting any pushback. Like I'm not one of Marie Forleo's affiliates, so I'm not even getting anything for this. But like literally, if that training, you can't take that seriously enough. It's one of those where she really teaches you how to build your email list and what you need to do. And it's not that I didn't take it seriously, but the more I know what my purpose is as a coach. It's to work with women one-on-one. It's to work with women in group settings, and it's to really help women connect to their creativity, to live in alignment with what's most important to them. And I cannot do that work if I am not connected to the right clients. And the only way to get connected to the right clients is to build your email list and to do it intentionally, like with your why in mind. And I know that the amount of money I'm capable of making is directly related to the size of that email list. Period.
I'm laughing because I've had build an email list on my to-do list for like the last 5 years. So yes, you're doing great.
So are you, right?
That's how it goes though. It's so funny. Like you hear, someone says something and I'm like, oh, dang it. Like I need to be doing that. But we're all trucking along.
We're all trucking along, and we'll get there. But that's really why I wanted to have you on today, is because I wanted to talk about this. And I know that there's a lot of people listening right now. And if you're someone that is out there listening and you have a business or you want to be having a business, like this is stuff we wrestle with all day long, every day. Authenticity. What is the most important thing that we can be doing today to drive our business forward? If I want to have X, Y, or Z in revenue in 5 years, if I want to be working with a certain type of clientele in 5 years, you have to be intentional and you have to plan that out now. It doesn't typically happen by accident.
Well, and going back to what you said earlier, you have to know why you want that. You know, I talk to so many photographers who will say, "Oh, you're shooting in DC. That's so cool. I would love to shoot in DC." Well, why do you want to shoot in DC? I know why I want to shoot in DC. I don't know. You know, like you can't just want something because it's the next biggest coolest thing. You have to want what you want for you, or else it's never going to hit. And there have been so many times in my journey that I've been doing something and I've been like, Lindley, why are you doing this? You don't even want to be doing this. Stop doing this.
Yeah.
So
It has to be connected to your own personal and professional why.
mhm. I think that's the theme of today: authenticity and finding your why.
Yes. Yes, in
I know
business and
Space would be so proud of us. Oh,
what else do you want folks to know?
oh man. That's a tough one. Are there any parameters in there?
No, no. This no holds bar.
I guess if I would say, like speaking to other business owners, I mean, everything we've been talking about just reiterated, like, don't be afraid to take risks or do things that are unconventional. You know, be you. Don't try to be anyone else. I mean, I've learned from some of the best people in my industry and I've taken little pieces from each of them. But at the end of the day, you know, I think that the only way that any of us are going to succeed is by being really true to you and really sure of who that is. And then um I guess just find joy in it. I mean, that's, you know, this is like we keep talking about, it's a lot. And you know, I'm 30 this year and I'm realizing that the last 10 years of my life have been spent growing this business and I'm so grateful for it and so happy about it. But this is really the first year that I'm starting to try to find joy in the work instead of just putting my head down and being the most productive or the most efficient or the most this or, you know, um, and a lot of that joy is coming from cutting things out that I don't want to be doing so that I can focus my energy and attention on doing the things that I want to be doing and doing them really, really, really well.
Yes. Hmm. What's one thing bringing you a lot of joy these days outside of work? Just one.
My dog is always I
Mhm.
mean, that's it's so bad. I did a workshop recently where I was shooting and showed up and everybody knew who my dog was because all I post on Instagram other than photos are photos of my dog. But she's
Did you?
just so, you know, she little Mika, she's around here somewhere, but she's just such a joy. She just brings me so much happy energy and she's about to be 2, so everything is just so exciting for her and getting to watch that is really fun. And then beyond that, I mean, I am traveling a ton for work this spring, and I'm really excited to get on a plane again, dear God. But just, you know, see the world and eat the places and do the things again.
Um, trying to, I'm trying to think what last thing I have for you. All right. I think I'm going to ask you the standard question.
Okay.
How do you live a life of abundance?
Hmm. Being really unapologetic.
What does that mean to you?
I think to me, abundance, you know, money comes and goes, things come and go. And lately, I've been finding a lot of joy in having less things and more things. But, you know, to me, what fulfills me and what makes me feel like my life is full and wonderful is that I get to be unapologetically me in all circles, you know, work and personal. And I think that is that makes me feel full.
Beautiful. Lindley, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. I hope we will have you back again soon.
Thank you, ma'am.